Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this event with ExpreS2ion Biotech. With me today, I have the CEO, Bent Frandsen, and topic for today's event is the latest news regarding EU-funded Nipah virus vaccine project. As always, you're more than welcome to post your questions, and actually a lot of questions already came in. And when Bent has finished his presentation, he will answer the questions. So with that said, I hope you will get a lot of input to this new EU-funded project. And by that, I will hand over the word to Bent. Bent, welcome, and please carry on.
Thank you very much, Claus. And thank you for allowing me to bring a deep dive on this Nipah virus vaccine project, which ExpreS2ion announced on the 1st of December that we have received an EU grant for. My name is Bent Frandsen. I'm the CEO of ExpreS2ion Biotech, and I'm very pleased to go through an agenda where I will initially highlight our leadership platform and pipeline of ExpreS2ion Biotech, and then take a more in-depth explanation of what Nipah virus is and what this grant is about and why ExpreS2ion is very excited about this project. In terms of leadership, I want to highlight the management team and our board of directors as it looks now. We have a very experienced team, both across the management and the board of directors. And when it comes to our management team, I'm heading the company together with Keith Alexander, our CFO, our Chief Science Officer, Dr. Farshad Guiracot, as well as our Senior Vice President of R&D and Technology, Dr. Max Søgaard. Together, we in the management team have more than 100 years of professional experience in supporting a pipeline-driven business. We work with unique technology platforms that support our pipeline. On the one side, we have the ExpreS platform, which originates from ExpreS2ion, and whereby we're able to make antigens, complex proteins for vaccine purposes. And we use this technology across all of our pipeline activities. On the other side, we have a unique virus-like particle technology, a VLP technology, which originates from University of Copenhagen and is placed in the company called AdaptVac, which is a unique biotech company that ExpreS2ion owns 34% of. And with this vaccine technology, you can basically bind any protein of interest on the surface of a virus-like particle and thereby make a very safe and efficacious vaccine. Looking at ExpreS2ion's pipeline today, we have a newcomer with the Nipah virus vaccine project, which has just been announced here 1st of December, and which I'm going to detail more in this meeting. But I want to highlight the COVID-19 vaccine project, which we have worked on the last 3 years, which is in phase 3. And the good thing about this project is Bavarian Nordic has been the main sponsor as the exclusive licensee of this project. And they have finalized a phase 3 clinical trial where they have tested the COVID-19 vaccine based on ExpreS2ion's and AdaptVac's technologies. And the good thing is here that the primary endpoint was met. So that's something that pleases ExpreS2ion and AdaptVac tremendously. Now we as biotech companies can say that we have a phase 3 validated technology, and not many biotech companies have that. We apply the same technologies in the breast cancer vaccine asset that we call ES2B-C001, HER2 virus-like particle vaccine. And here we have progressed this also significantly this year. We are in the final stages of the manufacturing and the preclinical safety testing. And then now we have the Nipah virus vaccine project that is called Vichy disease, and where we have been awarded a grant. And again, this project actually combines the technologies of ExpreS2ion and AdaptVac. In addition to these 3 top pipeline projects, we have a number of pipeline activities within influenza, CMV or cytomegalovirus, and malaria. In terms of the latter, we have 4 clinical stage malaria vaccine projects, all in collaboration with University of Oxford, all being sponsored by University of Oxford and progressed as they move along. In influenza, these are also grant-sponsored projects. In fact, the Mucovax project we announced in March this year, and that's also grant-funded, just like the Nipah virus vaccine project now. Although this vaccine project is 70% funded, whereas the Nipah virus vaccine project is in fact 100% funded. And then we have the CMV cytomegalovirus vaccine project, which is a collaboration between ExpreS2ion and Evaxion, another Danish Nasdaq-listed company with a proprietary artificial intelligence platform, which is super capable of designing the right constructs for antigens that can be applied in vaccines. And in this case, we work together on a novel cytomegalovirus vaccine, and that progresses as well. So if you look across our pipeline, we have in fact also made significant events in this year, and the Nipah virus vaccine project is just the newest in this connection. Let me move more detailed into this Nipah virus vaccine project and what this is all about. The VICI disease in itself is actually an acronym. It means protection from viruses with epidemic and pandemic disease outbreak potential through development and clinical testing of a novel capsid virus-like particle vaccine. This is the headline of the application we made in the Horizon Europe system. And the application is basically handling the pandemic threat under these diseases, Nipah virus disease, Hendra virus disease, and Sudan and Marburg virus diseases. These are actually all diseases listed by WHO, which are zoonotic diseases caused by the fruit bat, which is depicted here. In fact, we have funding to explore antigens in each of these diseases, but the way we have described the application is with an emphasis on the Nipah virus vaccine, which is on the highest priority on WHO's list. And this includes also clinical testing in this grant-sponsored project. So hence, I'll be focusing mostly on the Nipah virus. Just as a summary, I highlight a handful of points here. If you look at the top, WHO have specifically stated that there is an urgent epidemic threat with no existing vaccines or treatments against Nipah virus. This is what we are addressing with this. The vaccine we're talking about here applies the same technology platform as in the COVID-19 vaccine, the ABNCoV2, and the ES2B-C001, the breast cancer vaccine asset, both in both ExpreS2ion and AdaptVac pipelines, based on platforms that are already proven in clinical phase 3. The consortium behind the VICI disease project is very similar to the Prevent nCoV consortium that we established in 2020, which was the foundation for ABNCoV2, the COVID-19 vaccine, which was then later licensed to Bavarian Nordic. And that means this consortium also includes the clinical expertise to move this into a clinical phase 1. In the long term, we are targeting out-licensing after the phase 1 trial, or trying to obtain more non-diluting funding to perform the next clinical stage, a phase 2 trial. In terms of commercial strategy, the aim here is eventually to sell vaccines via stockpiling to non-governmental organizations like CEPI or Gavi, for example, or to governments, all with a purpose to ramp up production in case of an epidemic outbreak. So that's a summary of what I'm going to describe. Here are some further details. When it comes to Nipah virus, it is described as a lethal threat. If you get Nipah virus disease, you have a high mortality rate. The fatality rate can exceed 50%. The transmission originates from fruit bats that can transmit both to animals and to humans, leading to potentially lethal infections. The geography behind this disease is that it originates from Asia. It's also been found in Australia, and the fruit bat is actually present all over the world, mainly in Asia and Africa and Latin America as well. And transmission is a threat cross-continentally. There are no treatment options or limited treatment options. There are no vaccine for humans or animals today. And WHO recognizes that this is a potential epidemic threat. And there's even a bioterrorism concern element in this disease as well, since it's classified as a category C potential bioterrorism agent by the US authorities, which stresses its significance as a biosecurity risk. If you look at the market size, and here to the right you see outbreaks of infectious diseases over millenniums and over the last up until today with the COVID-19, which has caused about 7 million fatalities since it broke out 3 to 4 years ago. When it comes to the Nipah virus disease, this was first recognized in 1999 during an outbreak among pig farmers in Malaysia. Now, since 2001, there have been annual outbreaks in Bangladesh. There are periodic outbreaks in eastern India. There's been evidence of transmission moving to Africa as well. And also it's contagious during outbreaks, so there is definitely a concern about this being a cause for a global pandemic. So the idea is to make a vaccine that can be sold for stockpiling to health authorities and be ready to mass produce in case of a pandemic. What does stockpiling mean? Well, there are many examples of stockpiling. You have a handful of different diseases here where stockpiling is how you address the readiness to handle these diseases: polio, yellow fever, meningitis, Ebola, and not least recently smallpox, all diseases where authorities and non-governmental organizations have piled up stocks to be ready in case of a pandemic. And especially when it comes to smallpox, we know from Bavarian Nordic, it's been a game changer for them recently. And so the same can be said around the Nipah virus, that it's a vaccine that can also be handled in a stockpiling manner as we go down the commercial route. And in essence, we combine cutting-edge technologies for developing a novel, highly efficacious Nipah virus vaccine, which has the potential also to induce a durable immune response. We know it from before. We have the ExpreS system, which resides in ExpreS2ion Biotechnologies and can make the cost-effective antigens for high-yield production for this type of vaccine on the one side, and on the other side we have the VLP technology from AdaptVac, highly successful, also phase 3 validated, and together with these two technologies we can optimize the immune response, make a durable immune response, and boost vaccine efficacy. So we take the best of both worlds here again, as we have phase 3 evidence with, and apply it to a vaccine which also imposes a pandemic threat. What's the development timeline? Well, the grant is for a 4-year project. It's just been announced here, 1st of December 2023, We will move ahead with this in 2024. We kick it off in the beginning of 2024, and we'll be doing what we do best in the first couple of years. We'll make the antigen production, go ahead with testing antigen and VLP coupling, select the right antigen candidate, establish cell lines, and validate candidates in animal studies, and proceed with the manufacturing, processing, and scaling up manufacturing to GMP production. All this we'll handle in the first 3 years, and the idea is to move into a clinical phase 1 in the 4th year in 2027. All financed by the Horizon Europe grant, all through from 2024 through to 2027. And the idea is, in prolongation of this fully funded project, is then to move into a commercial, do commercial efforts, to do either an out-licensing, or actually look for non-diluting funding for the phase 2 trial, which we anticipate to take place after 2027. The project budget we're looking into is 8 million euro. The consortium consists of these partners that are depicted here. We have ExpreS2ion Biotech, which is responsible for 53% of the project budget. We have University of Copenhagen, adgang, Radboud University Medical Center, and Friedrich Loeffler Institute, all highly capable vaccine developers. We have already worked together with University of Copenhagen and adgang and Radboud University Medical Center in the COVID-19 vaccine. So we know each other well, also in connection with the Vichy disease consortium work. And there's some associated partners also in this project, the PSG Institute out of India, and CERMEL, a clinical research organization out of Africa, as well as the NIH, National Institute of Health in the US, which are all going to facilitate the development toward the clinical phase 1 trial. So in conclusion, we believe we now have a project that we call Vichy disease, which fits perfectly with our pipeline strategy. It's non-diluting funding for this, and this is actually 100% funded. It's a strong example of ExpreS2ion's priorities as we have changed our strategic priorities here in the second half of this year. This fits perfectly. ExpreS2ion in the Vichy disease consortium collaborates with world-class vaccine development experts, and most of them we even know in advance. This is again a perfect example of ExpreS2ion and adgang collaborating together. We now have clinical phase 3 proven platforms that can support the development of this important vaccine work. Finally, the Vichy disease, with a focus on the Nipah virus, fulfills a major need in WHO's pandemic preparedness program. Again, we're very excited by all this. I hope you are too. And I have time for some questions here.
Thanks a lot, Ben, for your presentation. And we really thoroughly got into depth with what you are actually working with in this Nipah virus. I think it's very important to emphasize that I understand you're really happy about this project, Ben. And you mentioned initially that you are funded. Just to understand you right, are you fully funded with the clinical phase 1 or until the clinical phase 1?
This is in fact fully funded, including the clinical phase 1 trial.
Yeah, which is very important.
Which is very important, and why we're super thrilled. Yeah.
So that's there's a couple of questions about that. So that's really important to understand. And after that, Bent is in a very different position. And don't forget that both the platform that Bent mentioned is both proof of concept, but also phase 3 tested, and you know your partners already. So I understand what you say, Ben. If we look into your pipeline in general, because you have a very strong pipeline within different areas, you initially mentioned funding there as well. some of them fully funded, some of them partly funded. Are you focusing on all projects at the same time, or could you elaborate a little on that, Bent?
Yes, it is a broad clinical stage pipeline that we have now. In terms of financial resources, a lot of them are actually grant sponsored, and where they are not grant sponsored, we're talking about the breast cancer vaccine asset, the ES2B C001. This is fully sponsored by ExpreS2ion ourselves, and as I've alluded to in earlier webinars in connection with the change in strategic priorities here that we announced a couple of months ago, we are looking into a clinical development plan which are less costly than what we looked into, and this is manageable. So this is a high priority in our pipeline that we sponsor ourselves. On the CMV, the cytomegalovirus project that we do together with Evaxion, this is a 50-50% research collaboration. So ExpreS2ion and Evaxion respectively fund 50% of the research cost in this setup. The last point that we finance ourselves is the exploratory pipeline, where we do activities that are supporting our IP position and securing our long-term growth, and which I hope to during 2024 to pull out some interesting aspects as soon as we have the right patent position that allows me to tell some more about what we do there. The rest of the pipeline asset is more or less grant sponsored, either by grant projects where we are ourselves in the consortium, or as for example with the case with the malaria projects, this is fully sponsored by University of Oxford under their grant schemes, and ExpreS2ion is a partner to support on the manufacturing using our ExpreS system in each of these 4 different malaria cases. But as such, we are also fully funded in those projects.
Thanks a lot, Ben. If we dive a little into Nipah, and there's a couple of questions about partnerships. I know it's very early days, but with your current track record, it should be manageable to find a virus partner, vaccine partner for this project. Isn't that right, Ben?
I think we have demonstrated over the last 3 years that we are capable of finding a partner to take this onwards, and we have dialogues in this vaccine space that we can build on when we reach that stage in terms of out-licensing. But I also want to emphasize that the non-dilutive funding has been emphasized in our strategy going onwards. Now we have actually demonstrated that we can raise cash in a non-dilutive manner, and of course we're also going to look for non-diluting funding for the phase 2 trial when we reach that point. I think that is also an important opportunity. And
that's of course depending on the data you get from the phase 1, yes?
Sure, yes.
Yeah. So and you mentioned in your presentation as well that this disease is primarily around equator and a little south of equator. You mentioned Australia, but it can actually spread from human to human. So we could see something similar to the swine flu or other diseases, Ebola, Mpox. Is that right?
Yeah, I should say I'm not an expert in epidemiology nor a virologist. However, clearly in terms of global warming and other aspects, these diseases are spreading across the globe basically. But I don't want to paint the picture black. I'm alluding to WHO's statements, and they state that this is an urgent potential threat, and this is all part of what they call the pandemic preparedness program. So they have identified these diseases as leading to potential pandemic threats. So that's what we are supporting with this project.
But it's fair to say that we could, when we get to phase 2 or even further, many years out in the future, because you mentioned that in your presentation, we could see a 2-tier market, a little like Mpox, Ebola, where you talk about biohazard risks, and by that it's a different market, like we know from Bavarian with their mpox. And then you have the traditional vaccine market, people traveling, business people traveling to these regions, or you and I go on holiday to these regions.
Yeah, I think actually Bavarian Nordic's experience with mpox is a very good example of the commercial strategy in a Nipah virus vaccine project. The monkeypox and the pox program was really highlighted in the aftermath of 9/11/21, as you recall, when bioterrorism was on high alert, and Bavarian Nordic were able to develop this vaccine and sell it for governments, and the US government purchased millions of doses at the time, and that supported Bavarian decades ago. And then, suddenly it emerges again here within the last 1.5 years, not as a biodefense threat, but as an actual outbreak. And Bavarian Nordic, you can't really anticipate these outbreaks, but you can do the work and prepare yourself, and that's what this is all about. And that we jump on the same train here, getting the funding for a project like this.
Yes. Could you elaborate a little on the milestones in the project, and what endpoints we should look into for a successful Nipah project?
Well, as I alluded to with the development plan, the first 3 years are mainly preclinical activities, and it will be important for us that we can actually make the antigens of relevance for such a vaccine, and the whole manufacturing side, which we are claimed to be experts in. That's our specialty. There will be some value inflection points in the first 1 to 2 years when we have demonstrated the antigen and the coupling to a VLP, and that we can produce it in a GMP process and scale it for GMP manufacturing. In parallel with this, there will be the initiation, which is in 2025, of animal studies that can support that this vaccine actually has a function. So yeah, there's some important points that I'm going to make aware of in the next couple of years, for sure.
Very interesting, and we will of course hear more about that. There's a question here coming in about your COVID-19 project with Bavarian. Would you receive any other payment from Bavarian or from the consortium, even though you don't carry on with commercializing the project?
There's an important milestone payment in this project, although Bavarian Nordic have said it has no commercial opportunity. They're still bound to pay a phase 3 completion milestone payment, and ExpreS2ion, giving our 34% ownership of AdaptVac, has a stake in that payment as well.
Interesting. So we are close to ending the presentation for today, Ben. If there's any more questions out there, please post them, and we have room for 1 or 2 more. Don't think that's the case, Ben. By that said, I really appreciate you attended today's event and explained to investors this very interesting Nipah project. And by that said, I hope you will enjoy your day, Ben, and to the audience, thanks a lot for all the good questions. And I hope we'll see Ben soon again, update us on the pipeline. By that said, enjoy your day.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.